Hey everyone, welcome back to Iraqi Dinar News Update. I truly appreciate you taking the time to be here today. If you're watching this, it means you care about understanding what's really happening with the Iraqi dinar, not rumors or hype, but the underlying economic and policy signals that actually matter. Today we're going to take a deep, calm, and realistic look at the 2026 Iraqi federal budget and why this specific budget cycle is drawing serious attention from long-term observers of Iraq's currency and economic direction. Before we go any further, I want to be very clear about the tone and purpose of this discussion. This is not about excitement-driven predictions. It's not about setting dates, rates, or expectations that aren't grounded in reality. What we're doing here is examining official government planning, fiscal structure, and economic logic. When you understand those elements, you start to see why certain developments matter more than others. So I encourage you to stay with me through the full explanation because context is everything when it comes to understanding long-term financial change. Right now, Iraq is in the process of finalizing and implementing its federal budget for 2026. On the surface, budgets may sound dry or overly technical, but for a country like Iraq, they are extremely revealing. A national budget is not just a collection of numbers. It's a statement of intent. It reflects what the government believes is possible, what it plans to prioritize, and what economic conditions it expects to operate during the coming year. What makes the 2026 budget especially noteworthy is not just its size, but its structure and assumptions. For the first time in a long while, the planning appears to move beyond basic stabilization and towards sustained growth. The allocations suggest confidence in expanded economic activity, broader infrastructure development, and greater international engagement. These assumptions are important because they imply a level of financial capacity that doesn't comfortably align with a permanently weak national currency. To understand why this matters, we need to talk about how budgets are constructed. Governments don't guess when they prepare a budget. They project revenue, calculate expenditures, and make assumptions based on oil prices, trade flows, debt obligations, and currency value. Every line item is tied to real-world purchasing power. When Iraq allocates funds for public sector salaries, infrastructure projects, foreign-denominated debt payments, and imported goods, those commitments must be supported by actual economic strength. The 2026 budget includes notable increases in public wages, large-scale rebuilding and development initiatives, and obligations that require interaction with international markets. Many of these expenses are tied directly or indirectly to foreign currencies. If the dinar remains weak, fulfilling these commitments would require an aggressive and potentially unsustainable drawdown of foreign reserves. On the other hand, a stronger currency environment makes these same commitments far more realistic and manageable. This isn't speculation, it's basic fiscal logic. Governments don't design budgets around outcomes they believe are impossible. They plan based on where they expect conditions to be when the fiscal year unfolds. The fact that Iraq is advancing a budget that assumes greater purchasing power tells us something important about how policymakers are thinking about the country's economic trajectory. Oil revenue plays a central role in this conversation. Iraq is one of the world's major oil producers, and oil exports remain the primary source of government income. Oil is sold globally in US dollars, which means Iraq earns strong dollar revenue. However, for many years, that dollar strength has not translated cleanly into domestic economic stability. A weak dinar has created inflationary pressure, reliance on dollar auctions, and inefficiencies throughout the financial system. If the long-term goal is to reduce these inefficiencies, then strengthening the dinar becomes a logical step. A currency that better reflects the country's revenue base can help stabilize prices, lower import costs, and reduce dependence on complex currency management mechanisms. These outcomes align closely with the broader objectives reflected in the 2026 budget. Another key signal lies in ongoing discussions about reducing reliance on dollar auctions. Iraq's central bank has used dollar auctions for years as a way to manage currency demand and maintain stability. While this system served a purpose, it is costly, vulnerable to abuse, and not ideal for a modern financial system. Moving away from this approach requires an alternative, and that alternative is a more trusted and stable national currency. International relationships also matter here. Iraq has been working closely with institutions such as the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. These organizations emphasize realistic budgeting, sustainable spending, and credible monetary frameworks. When Iraq presents a budget that assumes increased economic strength, those partners naturally expect to see a monetary environment capable of supporting it. That expectation places pressure on Iraq to ensure its currency framework is aligned with fiscal planning. For those holding Iraqi dinar and watching from abroad, especially long-term holders, it's understandable to feel cautious. Over the years, there have been countless claims, timelines, and promises that never materialized. That's why it's important to shift focus away from noise and toward official action. What matters is not what's being said on forums, but what is being implemented through policy, regulation, and planning. At the moment, Iraq is doing the work that typically precedes major financial transitions. Banking regulations are being tightened, illicit currency practices are being addressed, financial systems are being digitized, compliance with international standards is improving. These are not the actions of a system that intends to remain stagnant. The Central Bank of Iraq plays a crucial role in all of this. Managing a national currency under domestic and international pressure is complex, and the CBI has had to balance inflation, reserves, political considerations, and public trust. Recently, the bank appears more coordinated and confident, supported by growing foreign reserves and stronger oversight mechanisms. These reserves are particularly important because any credible currency adjustment requires financial backing and institutional confidence. Banking infrastructure has also seen steady improvement. Iraqi banks are becoming more integrated with international payment systems. Anti-money laundering standards are being enforced more consistently. Staff training and technological upgrades are ongoing. These steps are necessary for a more advanced monetary environment and suggest preparation rather than improvisation. For those who have held dinar for years, it's fair to acknowledge the emotional side of this journey. Waiting creates doubt, and missed expectations can erode confidence. While no one can responsibly promise a specific outcome, the direction of policy and preparation matters. The structures being built today are not consistent with a future of permanent currency weakness. It's also important to understand that major financial changes occur in stages. Planning comes first, followed by preparation, testing, and finally implementation. Based on observable developments, Iraq appears to be moving through the latter stages of preparation and early testing. That represents progress, even if it doesn't come with immediate public announcements. At the same time, caution is essential. Periods of momentum often attract scams and misinformation. Legitimate currency exchanges occur through regulated financial institutions following official procedures. They do not involve upfront fees, private intermediaries, or pressure tactics. Protecting yourself means staying patient, informed, and skeptical of anything that sounds urgent or guaranteed. Practical readiness also matters. Knowing where your currency is stored, ensuring authenticity, maintaining proper identification, and seeking professional advice are all sensible steps. Financial preparation is not about rushing, it's about being organized and clear-headed. Mindset is just as important. Financial change, if it occurs, brings responsibility along with opportunity. Long-term stability comes from thoughtful planning, not impulsive decisions. Education, patience, and perspective are key. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, the 2026 Iraqi federal budget reflects an expectation of growth, development, and deeper global integration. Those assumptions do not align with a permanently undervalued currency. Either the planning is detached from reality, or it reflects where policymakers believe the country is headed. Based on the evidence, the latter appears far more likely. Iraq's emphasis on economic sovereignty further reinforces this view. A functional national currency is central to that goal. For citizens to trust and use their own money, it must hold value and stability. Strengthening the dinar supports that objective and aligns with the broader reforms underway. Regionally, Iraq's progress also matters. Neighboring countries and trade partners benefit from a stable, economically functional Iraq. That external interest adds another layer of accountability and momentum to the reform process. As for specific rates or timelines, honesty is essential. No one can responsibly claim certainty. What can be assessed are fundamentals, trends, and direction. When those are considered together, the case for long-term adjustment becomes clearer, even if the exact form and timing remain unknown. Finally, it's worth thinking beyond the event itself. Financial outcomes, if they occur, require careful management afterward. Wealth preservation planning and decision-making become just as important as the initial opportunity. Preparing intellectually and emotionally now is part of being responsible later. To bring this all together, the 2026 Iraqi federal budget is more than a routine policy document. It's a signal of intent and direction. The assumptions embedded within it point toward an economy positioning itself for greater strength and stability. That path is not instant, but it is deliberate. For those who have followed this journey patiently, the developments suggest progress rather than stagnation. Staying informed, realistic, and prepared is the best approach. Let the process unfold, and when change comes, meet it with clarity and wisdom. Thank you for spending this time with Iraqi Dinar News Update. If this discussion helped you better understand the broader picture, consider supporting the channel so more people can access grounded, analytical content like this. Stay patient, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next update.